Okay, my friends, this is going to be really interesting. Get the kids. What are we talking about? Alchemy. Well, what is alchemy? They used to call it alchemy. Now they call it chemistry. What is chemistry? It just means how different things in the periodic table of elements combine to make molecules and whatever. Now, what is this? This is concrete. Okay, this normally it's what they would call an aggregate, a bunch of little bits and pieces of sand and so forth that they glue together with some other minerals that bond and form a tight bond around these inclusions, these things that are inside, making this aggregate into a solid block. And that is not the case with mud fossils. And I'm going to show you in the microscope right now. Alright, I'm going to show you, this is a regular brick. Okay, this is what they're like. They're made out of little, this is, the surface of it. But inside it's more compact, obviously. But you can see what it's made of, grains of this and that. Alright, it's just all combined together. Grains. Okay, now that's a regular brick, a red brick. Now, this is a concrete block. You see, and there's some ice in here because, there's ice particles in here because it's frozen. I just got it from outside. But it's the same stuff, only this is concrete and it's more quartzy. Alright, so that's the difference between bricks. And what I was looking at was this right here. Okay, these two. This one, the red black brick, and this one here. And I'm going to take them back outside. Alright, I want you to think about something. The human body and any creature's body, and even a tree and everything, is nothing more than a collection of different components. And some of them make skin and hair and eyeballs and eardrums and, cornified skin and grip skin and thin skin and membranes and all the different scaffolding in your body and bones and tissues and everything. I mean, there's literally thousands of different building materials in your body. The same way we can create different building materials in concrete, wood-framed houses, different composites now, all kinds of crazy things. And they work, some of them are flexible, some of them are rigid, some of them are all kinds of different stuff. Metals and conductive and non-conductive and, so my point being is I'm going to show you how elegant nature is and I am going to show you how you can determine if this is a natural product or this is a man-made product. Aggregates primarily are man-made, and then they can grow some crystals because of the materials they put in these aggregates, but primarily they're aggregate components and then fused into a matrix. Let's think about it that way in most cases. Okay, what we are going to be looking at is this lung, which is DNA certified, tested, CAT scan, no question whatsoever, it's a human lung. And while I'm looking at it, people ask me about microscopes, and I show them this microscope virtually every single time. You don't need this kind of microscope. I bought that to do a blood study on the size of blood cells and that kind of sort of stuff. It's worthless. I got to be honest with you. I use it half a dozen times and that's it. You can get this stuff online, anything you want to see, and you can see it in multiple types. Anyway, forget that. This is what you want, something like this, and they're cheap. I've seen them like 20, 25 bucks. This is a better one. I don't know, but this is very old now. I have to get a new one. And, it's a better grade, but I don't know what they make now. Things are just very inexpensive now to get something that will go into a computer and give you a nice resolution. Anyway, we're going to be looking at this, and I can show you in here for a fact what tissue is compared to the aggregates of concretes and processed blocks. Now, you can get these kind of cheap. I think this is supposed to be 1,000 times. Now, mine is a 200. This is I think 5 megapixel, 15 megapixel, I'm not sure. I don't know what this is, but you know, you should be able to get at least some kind of a pretty good image as to what we're looking at. When you see what this is, you'll have no problem identifying mud fossils in the future. No, none whatsoever. Okay, now this is the lung, and it's in the microscope. I'm going to be jiggling around here and there. Now, you can see the red spots are where there's a bloody-ish thing. These are the little straps. You see these straps? Every one of those straps goes to one of these black balls. And I'm going to show you in actually leather belt. It has the same things. Those are the anchors that held this fabric on the lung so it could stretch and come back, stretch and come back. Now, I'm just going to move it around. It's got all the same things everywhere, you see? And some of them are going to be more obvious, some of them are going to be more crunched up. You see it? These are all straps and anchors. And what it allows us to do is go this way and back and forth and so forth and stretch and come back. And it has to be serviced with blood and then, you know, all that. Now, so that is the lung. Now, I'm going to show you a couple other things. Hold on a second. You remember what the outside of the lung looked like. It looked exactly like that. And what is it we're looking at right now? We're looking at my belt. And this is the fibers of the belt, and it's floppy, it's flexible. Now, I'm going to move over to a loop right here. Now, let me focus in. See if I can. Hold on. And you can actually see the individual fibers attached to the individual balls. You see the fibers? This is hard to get focused, I'm sorry. Give me uno momento. Alright, let's see if I can get this. I'm getting there. Give me a second. Hold on. Boom, 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 boom. Bang. Here it is. Now, each one of these fibers attaches to an anchor. And that's why your skin can stretch and go this way and that way and this way and that way and come back. This is nothing more than a belt. That's the loop of one of my belts, my belt loops. And you see the little black anchors? Each one of them is attached to a strap. And only right at the hole are the straps all ripped around, because otherwise, but this is oh, I don't know, at least 1/8 of an inch thicker than that, and that is just skin. It's just nothing more than literally skin of an animal. In the cowhide, I believe it is. Alright, so I showed you that they're virtually identical, same fabric. The same strappy stuff that's in this is in this. Well, guess what? It's in my kitchen counter, too. And I now think I have an understanding of what's going on here, I hope. Alright, you saw what this was made of and how these little straps and these little white straps were everywhere, and these different colors, the same, the black and the brown. Now this is the only piece of metal I could find, and guess what this is? This is my countertop. I'm telling you right now, there is no aggregates in here like there is in a concrete. This is all biological body parts. Now, was this ground up and they extracted the metal and just missed this one piece? Because I looked at a lot of places and I could only find this one little piece of metal and I have a lot of countertop and it's thick, and I was just wondering how they did this. Now, and I know they used to grind up bodies in China to make things, and they said when they added the blood and so forth, it really stiffened up the concrete, you know. And they show people grinding up body parts. So is this ground up and then flushed of all of its metals? I think that may be the case, because there would be quite a, you know, not a ton of metals, but there'd be a significant amount. And if they ground it up and leached them all out, they would collect them. I know they were doing a lot with metals. And they were alchemists. They were doing a lot of metallurgy. They were experimenting with different combinations of metals. Who knows? Okay, you've seen the lung, and you've seen my countertop, and there is virtually no difference. This is a no-toe, and this is, you know, like almost like us, but it's got a different type of. Inside there's springs instead of tendons, and there's a bunch of different things. The toes are encapsulated. This is not a shoe. This is actually the structure of the foot itself, and it never did have a shoe on. And it's got regular pads on the bottom like ours have, and an arch and all that stuff. And it had the same tibia and a fibula, and that's where the tibia sat right there. That circle. And this is what this stuff looks like in a microscope. It'll be exactly like this. Watch. See it? There's virtually no difference. You see, there's a red spot where there's a little more blood. You see it? And this shows the fibers, just exactly like identical to all of the biological stuff. This is not concrete. This is biology. And there's straps all over this thing. See it? See, this is even my friend Caesar. Anything that has collagens and keragens, which is the surface of everything, which is skin and bone and skin and feathers and fascia and membranes. That is exactly what it is. They all have the same texture to them. They are not aggregates. See, that's my giant fingertip. That's been DNA tested as human as well. And there it is right there under the microscope. Now, all of this stuff has the same texture, the same fabric, the same chemistry. It's not deniable. It's only dismissible, and that's what's happened. Okay, I got a little lost in there, a few interruptions, and I'm not exactly sure where I am, so I'm just going to start where I'm at. Now, there was a lot of different religious texts back then. There wasn't just the Bible. There wasn't just the Colburn Bible. There wasn't just the Dead Sea Scrolls, Nag Hammadi. There's all kinds of things being written, and some of it was written very, very, very early, and apparently had knowledge of pre-Adam and Eve cultures. Now, let's listen to what this has to say. This was pretty well done. Now, listen.
In their day, Phoenician traders operated the most advanced fleets of ocean-going vessels in all the world. Before their fall to the Roman Empire, their principal trade routes stretched throughout the Mediterranean area, out along the shores of Western Europe and up as far north as Britain. Of note to this body of work is that the Phoenicians imported papyrus from Egypt and sold it abroad along with ancient wisdom texts.
All right, the ancient wisdom texts. These are the knowledge passed down by, you know, people that really studied and did the work to understand what was written before. And I'm sure they had all kinds of information that's been completely just lost. Let's just go with that.
In doing so, they distributed the earliest known variant of the Colburn Bible, called the Great Book, to their various ports of call. The Great Book was originally penned in hieratic by Egyptian academicians somewhere around 1500 BCE.
All right, this is where Velikovsky comes in. He said that approximately 1500 BC was the Great Flood. Now, was this prior to the Great Flood, or was this just after the Great Flood? I have no idea. But these are the kind of things we really have to study. And these kind of things are real. They exist. They're not just pie in the sky. Oh, he must have done this. They must have thought that. No. This is something that Velikovsky went into every culture on the earth. And they all had virtually the same story at virtually the same time in history. And then after that, there was the Sea Peoples, which nobody understands. Well, those were the leftovers. After this disaster, they started to populate, and they came out of the sea. They said, well, where do sea people come from? I don't know. They came out of the sea. Well, they were displaced peoples. Anyway, but this all happened right around where Velikovsky said, 1500 BC. And around, I think around 1350 BC, they started to sort of come back as cultures, although I'm not sure of that. We need to talk about it. Here it goes, anyway.
Its original 21 volumes were later translated using the 22-letter Phoenician alphabet, which later spawned the Greek, Roman and English alphabets of today. The only known copy of the Great Book to survive the millennia was the one exported to Britain by the Phoenicians in the 1st century BCE. Regrettably, much of it was destroyed when the Glastonbury Abbey was set ablaze in 1184 CE. The attack on the abbey was ordered by English King Henry II, after he accused the abbey priests of being mystical heretics. Fearing for their lives, the Celtic priests of the abbey fled into hiding with what remained of the Great Book. There, they transcribed the surviving Phoenician translations to bronze sheets and stored them in copper-clad wooden boxes. This effort became known as the Bronze Book. In the 18th century CE, the Bronze Book was merged with a Celtic wisdom text called the Cole Book to become the Colburn Bible.
It's pretty amazing. I think I mentioned Two Old Dudes Production. And that's their channel here on YouTube. And of course they're doing the same thing I'm doing, fair rights, fair use rights, so I can show their stuff, they can show my stuff, everybody can show each other's stuff. They just can't make claims that are untrue that I'm making, or I'm making claims that somebody else is making.